The elevator lurched, a sickening groan of metal on metal, and my heart slammed against my ribs. I gripped the handrail, my knuckles whitening, as the polished steel box shuddered violently, lights flickering like a dying pulse. The digital display above the doors froze at floor 47, then blinked out. Horizon Global's Manhattan headquarters, a glittering spire of ambition, was betraying me. I was alone, trapped in this glass and chrome coffin, 60 stories above the city that never sleeps. My phone, useless in the dead zone of the elevator shaft, lay heavy in my blazer pocket. The air grew thick, stale, and I swore I heard a faint snap, like a cable fraying under impossible weight. I pressed my back against the wall, forcing myself to breathe. Olivia Hart, Director of Global Communications, does not panic. Not after 20 years of navigating corporate battlefields and billion-dollar deals. But this wasn't a boardroom. This was a trap. The elevator jolted again, dropping an inch that felt like a mile. My stomach churned, and I braced for the freefall that never came. Instead, the lights snapped back on, harsh and clinical, and the doors slid open with a mocking ding. Floor 58. My floor. I stumbled out, legs unsteady, into the sleek, open-plan office of Horizon Global, where glass walls reflected the city's skyline like a promise of power. My pulse was still racing, but I straightened my blazer, smoothed my hair, and forced a smile. No one needed to know how close I'd come to screaming. I crossed the floor, heels clicking on polished marble, past rows of desks where analysts and strategists typed furiously, their screens glowing with stock tickers and client dashboards. The air buzzed with the low hum of ambition, the kind that fueled New York's corporate elite. But something was off. The usual chatter was muted, replaced by furtive glances and whispered conversations that stopped when I passed. I'd felt this before 2 decades at Horizon had taught me to read a room like I read 6 languages. The tension wasn't just nerves. It was dread, laced with anticipation, like the city before a thunderstorm. I reached my corner office, a glass-walled sanctuary with a view of the Hudson River sparkling under the morning sun. My desk was a fortress of order, a stack of contracts in Japanese, German, and Mandarin, a jade sculpture from a Sydney client, a coffee mug that read, "Words are weapons." I sank into my chair, still shaken from the elevator, and powered on my computer. The screen flickered, then froze. A red error message flashed. Access denied. Unauthorized activity detected. My breath caught. I tried logging in again, my fingers trembling over the keyboard. Same message. Someone had locked me out. My office, my files, my lifeline to Horizon's global network gone. I leaned back, heart thudding, and scanned the room through the glass walls. No one was watching, but I felt eyes anyway. 20 years at Horizon, building bridges between cultures, closing deals that funded skyscrapers, and now this. A hack. A setup. I grabbed my phone to call IT, but a notification pinged first. An email. No sender, no subject, just 5 words. Back off, or you're done. The words burned into me, cold and sharp, like a blade pressed against my spine. I deleted it, but the message lingered, a shadow in my mind. Someone wanted me out, and they weren't subtle about it. The office door swung open, and Emily Chen, my closest ally and senior data analyst, slipped inside. Her usual calm was frayed, her dark eyes wide with something close to panic. "Olivia, you okay?" I heard about the elevator. Her voice was low, urgent, like she was afraid the walls were listening. "Barely," I said, forcing a laugh that sounded hollow. "It's going to love this one. My system's locked out too. Someone's having a bad day, and it's not just me." Emily didn't smile. She closed the door, her movements quick, deliberate. "It's not a glitch. The whole floor's whispering about it. They're saying it's targeted. You! I froze, the air in the room suddenly too thin. Me? Why? She hesitated, glancing at the glass walls, then lowered her voice to a whisper. The new CEO, Ethan Caldwell. He's shaking things up, and your name's on the chopping block. My stomach twisted. Ethan Caldwell. The name had been circulating for weeks, ever since Horizon's board announced his appointment. A Silicon Valley hotshot with a resume that read like a tech bro fantasy, Stanford MBA, startup darling, a trail of buzzwords and broken companies in his wake. He'd walked into Horizon 3 weeks ago, late to his own welcome gala, reeking of whiskey and arrogance. I'd been there, in a black dress and heels, shaking hands with board members while Ethan strode through the ballroom like he owned Manhattan. His speech was a mess of jargon, disruptive synergy, global scalability, but it was his eyes that unnerved me. Cold, calculating, like he was sizing up everyone in the room and finding them wanting. He doesn't even know what I do, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. I've closed deals in Tokyo, Berlin, Sydney. I speak their languages, Emily, literally and figuratively. Why me? Emily leaned closer, her voice barely audible. He's got a new hire, Vanessa Blake, digital strategy lead. She's pushing AI tools, saying they can replace your entire department. She's got Ethan's ear, and she's gunning for you. I laughed, sharp and bitter. AI! For billion-dollar negotiations? Good luck explaining that to the Triton Group when they walk away from a $200 million deal. Emily didn't laugh. Olivia, it's worse. I heard Vanessa's been digging into your files. She's claiming your methods are outdated, that AI can do it faster, cheaper, and Ethan's buying it. The words hit like a punch. My department wasn't just translation, it was trust. I'd spent years learning the cadence of a Japanese CEO's pause, the weight of a German executive's handshake, the subtle humour that won over Australian partners. I wasn't just a voice. I was the bridge that kept Horizon's global empire standing. And now some tech bro and his new protégé thought they could replace me with a chatbot. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed again. Another email, same anonymous sender. You were warned. Stop digging. My pulse spiked. I showed Emily the screen, and her face paled. Olivia, this is serious. You need to watch your back. I opened my mouth to reply, but a shadow moved outside the glass wall. Vanessa Blake. She strutted across the office floor, red stilettos clicking like gunfire, her blazer tailored to scream ambition. She was young, maybe 30, with a smile that didn't reach her eyes, and a presence that demanded attention. She paused at my door, her gaze locking onto mine through the glass. It wasn't friendly. It was a challenge. She's here, Emily whispered, stepping back. Vanessa pushed the door open without knocking, her perfume sharp and cloying, like a warning shot. Olivia Hart, she said, her voice dripping with false warmth. The legend herself. I've heard so much about you. I stood, matching her height, my smile as sharp as hers. Vanessa, right? Digital strategy. Welcome to Horizon. She waved a hand, dismissing the pleasantries. Oh, no need for that. I'm already settled. Just thought I'd stop by and see the famous linguist in action. Her eyes flicked to my frozen computer screen, and her lips twitched. Having tech issues? That's rough. You should try our new AI suite. It's a game changer. I didn't flinch. I've been closing deals since before AI was a buzzword, Vanessa. I think I'll manage. Her smile widened, but it was all teeth. Sure, but the world's moving fast. Ethan's all about efficiency, you know. No offense, but manual translation? Kinda last century. She leaned closer, her voice dropping. You should try Grammarly. Or, something that doesn't take 20 years to get a sentence right. Emily sucked in a breath. but I held Vanessa's gaze, my voice calm but cold. I've been writing contracts in 6 languages since you were in high school. If Ethan wants to bet the company on a chatbot, that's his funeral. Vanessa laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Oh, Olivia, you're adorable. But don't worry, I'm sure there's a place for you somewhere. She turned, her heels clicking as she left, but not before tossing a final jab over her shoulder. Nice mug, by the way. Words are weapons? Cute. The door closed, and Emily grabbed my arm. She's trouble, Olivia. Be careful. I didn't need the warning. Vanessa wasn't just a new hire. She was a predator, and I was her target. But I'd faced worse executives who shouted in languages they didn't understand. Clients who walked away over a single, misused honorific. I wasn't going to crumble now. Not yet. The rest of the morning was a blur of damage control. IT couldn't explain the hack, only that it originated from an internal IP address. My file's years of client notes, cultural profiles, negotiation strategies were compromised, and I was the one under scrutiny. By noon, I was summoned to the executive boardroom for an urgent strategy sync. The glass table gleamed under flickering LED lights, and the room smelled of coffee and desperation. Ethan was there, sleeves rolled up, tie loose, like he was auditioning for a startup movie. The board members, a mix of old money suits and tech bros, shifted uncomfortably in their seats. And Vanessa, of course, sat across from me, her phone face up, recording every word. Ethan didn't bother with a greeting. "We're cutting deeper," he said, dropping a folder on the table like a guillotine. "Executive directive. If we want to dominate the Asia-Pacific market, we need to trim non-core roles." My stomach dropped. Non-core, a term that turned people into numbers, trust into spreadsheets. Vanessa raised a hand, casual but calculated. "I've analyzed the data. Our digital ops are overlapping. AI tools have slashed localization costs by 60%. We don't need a full communications team anymore." She turned to me, her smile a blade. "No offense, Olivia, but translation in 2025. There's an app for that." The room went silent. Every eye avoided mine, like I was already gone. Ethan nodded, leaning back. "She's right. I don't need human translators clogging up the budget. Algorithms don't miss deadlines." I stood, my voice steady despite the fire in my chest. "You're not just cutting translators, Ethan. You're cutting trust. I've built relationships with clients in Sydney, Tokyo, Berlin. They don't sign deals with apps. They sign with me." Vanessa laughed, sharp and deliberate. "Wow, confident, aren't we? Olivia, you're not the only one who can talk to clients. CRM data and AI can handle it. You're not irreplaceable." Ethan's eyes narrowed, but he didn't disagree. "This isn't personal, Olivia. It's business. You're out." The words hit like a slap, but I didn't flinch. I closed my laptop, packed nothing, and stood taller. "Good luck with your apps, Ethan. You'll need it." I walked out, the boardroom silent except for the hum of the air conditioning. Vanessa's smirk followed me like a shadow. Outside, the city roared below, indifferent to my unravelling. I made it to the parking garage, my hands shaking as I unlocked my car. I slid into the driver's seat, the leather cold against my skin, and started the engine. I didn't notice the brakes felt soft until I was halfway down the ramp. The pedals sank to the floor, useless, as I careened toward a concrete pillar. I yanked the wheel, tires screeching, and the car spun, missing the pillar by inches. My heart pounded, my breath ragged. Someone had tampered with my brakes. This wasn't an accident. It was a message. I sat there gripping the wheel, the anonymous email flashing in my mind. "Back off, or you're done." I didn't know who was behind it. Vanessa, Ethan, someone higher. But I knew one thing. They'd underestimated me. And that was their first mistake. I drove home, the city blurring past, my mind racing faster than the traffic. My apartment, a high-rise loft with a view of Central Park, felt like a cage. The silence was deafening. No client calls, no email pings, just the weight of 20 years erased in a single meeting. I dropped my keys into a ceramic bowl, the clink echoing in the empty space. My phone buzzed and I froze, expecting another threat. Instead, it was Emily. "Olivia, it's bad. The Triton group meeting's tomorrow, and Ethan's using some AI app. You need to see this." I didn't sleep that night. I sat on my couch, the city lights flickering outside, and stared at a cryptic note I'd found slipped under my door. "They're watching you. Trust no one." The handwriting was unfamiliar, the paper cheap, but the words burned. Who was watching? Ethan? Vanessa? Someone else? I tucked the note into a drawer, my hands trembling, and opened my laptop. The hack had locked me out of Horizon's systems, but I still had my personal drive. Years of client emails, cultural notes, deal memos. If they thought they could erase me, they were wrong. By morning, my phone was buzzing again. Emily, her voice tight with panic. "It's a disaster. Triton's CEO walked out. Ethan tried using that app, and it mangled everything. They're furious." I clutched the phone, my pulse racing. "What about the contract?" "They signed it," Emily said, her voice breaking. "But it's wrong, Olivia. Vanessa ran it through AI. The terms are a 70% control to Triton, a 10 million bonus they never approved. It's legal, and they're holding us to it." I closed my eyes, the weight of it crushing. A 200 million deal, years in the making, ruined by arrogance and a botched translation. I wanted to scream, to march back to Horizon and shake sense into them. But then Emily said something that stopped me cold. "Triton asked for you. They wouldn't talk without you." I didn't answer. I couldn't. Because in that moment I realized this wasn't just about a job. It was about trust, respect. The things I'd built word by word, handshake by handshake. And they'd thrown it away. But I wasn't done. Not yet. That afternoon, I stepped out for coffee, needing air, needing to think. The city was alive, horns blaring, people rushing past like they had somewhere to be. I didn't notice the man in the black hoodie until he was too close, his steps matching mine, his hand slipping into his pocket. I ducked into an alley, my heart pounding, and pressed myself against a brick wall, listening as his footsteps faded. I waited, breath held, until I was sure he was gone. When I stepped back onto the street, my phone buzzed again. Another anonymous message. "Next time, you won't walk away." I didn't go home. I couldn't. Instead, I went to a diner, ordered a coffee I didn't drink, and opened my laptop. Among my personal files, I found something I hadn't noticed before. An encrypted USB drive, slipped into my bag at some point during the chaos. I plugged it in, my hands shaking as it loaded. Internal Horizon memos. Emails between Ethan and someone unnamed, hinting at a plan to streamline the company by any means necessary. My name was mentioned, circled in red. Neutralize Olivia Hart. My blood ran cold. This wasn't just a firing. It was a conspiracy. I didn't know who to trust. But I knew one thing. Horizon had made a mistake, and I was going to make them pay. Not with screams or tears, but with the one thing they'd never understood. The power of a voice that spoke the truth. The diner's neon sign flickered outside, casting a sickly red glow across the cracked vinyl booth where I sat, my untouched coffee growing cold. The encrypted USB drive burned a hole in my pocket, its weight heavier than the jade sculpture on my desk back at Horizon Global. My laptop screen glowed with the memos I'd decrypted, internal emails between Ethan Caldwell and an unnamed contact, their words laced with venom. Neutralize Olivia Hart. She's a liability. My name, circled in digital red, felt like a target painted on my back. The anonymous emails, the sabotaged breaks, the man in the black hoodie who'd followed me into that alley, they weren't random. They were moves in a game I hadn't realized I was playing. I closed the laptop, my hands trembling, and scanned the diner. The waitress was wiping down counters, oblivious. A trucker at the bar nursed a beer, his eyes on a muted TV. But the prickle on my neck told me I wasn't alone. Someone was watching. I slipped the USB into my bag and stepped into the Manhattan night. The city's pulse, a chaotic symphony of horns and distant sirens. The air was sharp, October's chill cutting through my blazer, but it was the memory of that alley chase that kept my steps quick. I'd escaped, but barely, ducking behind a dumpster as the man's shadow passed, his boots heavy on the pavement. I couldn't shake the feeling he'd be back. My phone buzzed, and I flinched, half expecting another threat. It was Emily, her text, a single line. "Triton's pulling out. It's over." My chest tightened. The $200 million deal, years of my life woven into every clause, was crumbling because of Ethan's arrogance and Vanessa's AI obsession. I typed back, my fingers shaking, "What happened?" Her reply came seconds later. "They signed the wrong contract. It's bad, Olivia. Call me." I found a payphone old school, untraceable, because I didn't trust my cell anymore. Emily picked up on the first ring, her voice a mix of panic and exhaustion. "Olivia, it's a nightmare. The Triton contract Vanessa pushed through? It's a disaster. The AI mangled the Japanese version. It gives Triton 70% control of our Asia-Pacific ops and a $10 million bonus we never approved. They signed it yesterday, and it's legally binding." I leaned against the payphone's scratched glass, the city blurring around me. "How did this happen?" I warned them. "I told Ethan." "They didn't listen," Emily cut in. "Vanessa sold it as a done deal. Ethan didn't even read the fine print. Now Triton's gone silent and legal's freaking out. They've locked down all project files, but it's too late. Triton CEO Hiroshi Tanaka asked for you specifically. When Vanessa said you'd quit, he looked like he'd been slapped." I closed my eyes, picturing Tanaka's face calm, unreadable, but with that quiet intensity that could sink a deal with a single glance. I'd spent years earning his trust, learning the cadence of his silences, the weight of his nods. He didn't sign contracts with companies, he signed with people, with me. And now Vanessa's lie had insulted him, reducing a decade of partnership to a botched PDF and a smug dismissal. "What's Ethan doing?" I asked, my voice tight. "Flailing," Emily said. "He's sent 3 meeting requests to Triton's team. No response. He even tried calling their liaison, Alice, directly. Her assistant said she's unavailable indefinitely. The board's in emergency session, and the stock's already down 8% on pre-market rumors." I exhaled, my breath fogging the glass. "And Vanessa?" "She's deflecting, claims she just used the tools Ethan approved. But Olivia, there's more. I overheard her in the break room, talking to someone on the phone. She mentioned a fix for the Triton mess and dropped your name. It didn't sound friendly." My grip tightened on the receiver. "A fix? What does that mean?" "I don't know, but it's bad. You need to be careful. Really careful." I hung up, the diner's hum fading into a dull roar in my ears. A fix. The USB. The threats. The breaks. The alley pieces of a puzzle I couldn't yet see. I stepped back onto the street, my heels clicking against the pavement, and scanned the crowd. A man in a dark coat lingered across the street, his face half hidden by a scarf. My pulse spiked, but I kept moving, weaving through pedestrians, my bag clutched tight. I didn't know if he was the same man from the alley, but I wasn't waiting to find out. Back in my apartment, I double-locked the door and checked the windows. The city's skyline glittering beyond the glass like a taunt. I sat on the couch, the USB drive in my hand, and plugged it back in. The memos were worse than I'd thought. One email, dated 3 days ago, outlined a plan to streamline Horizon's global operations by outsourcing communications to an AI firm with ties to Ethan's old startup. Another mentioned removing obstacles, with my name flagged as a high-priority concern. The final line chilled me. Ensure she's out before Triton signs. I stared at the screen, my heart pounding. This wasn't just about firing me. They wanted me erased. I was about to call Emily back when I heard a faint click from the hallway. My breath caught. I grabbed a kitchen knife, my hands steady despite the adrenaline flooding my veins. The apartment was dark, the only light from my laptop's glow. I crept toward the door, the floor creaking under my weight. Another sound, softer, like a key scraping in the lock. I pressed myself against the wall, knife raised, as the door eased open. A shadow slipped inside, moving fast. I lunged, grabbing their arm, the knife inches from their throat. "Olivia, it's me!" Emily's voice was a desperate whisper. I froze, lowering the knife, my heart still racing. She was panting, her coat damp from the rain, a folder clutched to her chest. I didn't know where else to go. "What the hell are you doing sneaking in here?" I snapped, my voice shaking. "I used my spare key. I had to see you. It's worse than I thought." She thrust the folder at me, her hands trembling. "I found this in Vanessa's office." She left it out, like she didn't care who saw. I opened the folder, my eyes scanning the pages. Printouts of internal chats, marked confidential. Vanessa's name was all over them, coordinating with someone called J. Kessler, about containing the heart situation. One message read, "She knows too much. Move up the timeline." Another mentioned a security sweep of my office, dated the day my computer was hacked. My stomach churned. "They planted something," I said, my voice barely audible. "There's a camera in my office, Emily. I found it this morning, hidden in the vent." Emily's eyes widened. "A camera? Olivia, this is insane. They're not just firing you, they're setting you up." "For what?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. The leaked client data, the hacked system, the anonymous threats. They were building a case to pin the Triton failure on me. I was the scapegoat for their incompetence, and they were willing to play dirty to make it stick. Before Emily could answer, my phone buzzed, a blocked number. I hesitated, then answered, putting it on speaker. A distorted voice crackled through. "Stop digging, Hart. You won't like what you find." The line went dead. Emily grabbed my arm, her nails digging into my skin. "Olivia, you need to get out of here, now." But I wasn't running. Not yet. I shoved the folder into my bag, grabbed my coat, and pulled Emily toward the door. "We're going to Triton's New York office. If they want me, they're getting me. But on my terms." The streets were slick with rain, the city a blur of headlights and reflections. We took a cab to Triton's offices in Midtown, a sleek tower that dwarfed horizons. My mind raced, piecing together the fragments. Ethan's plan to outsource my role, Vanessa's fix, the camera, the brakes, the USB. Someone was pulling strings, and I was caught in the web. But I wasn't prey. I was Olivia Hart, the woman who'd closed deals across 6 continents, who'd turned silences into signatures. They'd underestimated me, and that was their fatal mistake. Triton's lobby was all marble and glass, a stark contrast to Horizon's frenetic energy. Alice, Triton's liaison, met us at the elevator, her face a mask of professional calm. "Miss Hart," she said, her voice clipped but warm, "Mr. Tanaka is expecting you." I nodded, my pulse steadying. Good, because we have a lot to discuss. The boardroom was a fortress of silence, the kind that carried weight. Hiroshi Tanaka sat at the head of the table, his suit impeccable, his eyes sharp as ever. He didn't rise, but his nod was enough. "Olivia," he said, his voice low, deliberate. "We were disappointed to hear you'd left Horizon." "I didn't leave," I said, my voice clear. "I was fired." They replaced me with an AI tool that butchered your contract." Tanaka's expression didn't change, but I saw the flicker in his eyes anger, not at me, but at the insult. "Yes," he said. "We received a document that was unacceptable. It granted us terms we did not negotiate. It disrespected our partnership." I slid the folder across the table, my hands steady. "This is what they're hiding. Internal memos, plans to outsource my role, and evidence they're framing me for the leak. They lied to you about my departure." Tanaka opened the folder, his fingers precise, his silence deafening. Alice leaned over, scanning the pages, her face tightening. "This is egregious," she said. "They named Ms. Blake as the lead on our account." "Vanessa Blake," I confirmed. "She told you I quit. She pushed the AI contract, and she's behind the smear campaign that's tanking Horizon's stock as we speak." Tanaka closed the folder, his gaze locking onto mine. "And what do you propose, Olivia?" I leaned forward, my voice steady but fierce. "I'm not here to save Horizon. I'm here to save your trust. Give me a chance to fix this. Not for them, but for you, for the partnership we built." He didn't answer immediately, his silence a test. Then he nodded, once, sharp. "We will discuss this. But know this, Olivia. Our decision to terminate was not hasty. Horizon's actions were an affront. We do not tolerate disrespect." "I know," I said, "and neither do I." As we left the boardroom, Emily grabbed my arm, her voice a whisper. "Olivia, that was bold, but what if they don't bite?" "They will," I said, though my heart wasn't as certain, "because they know what Horizon doesn't. Trust isn't a line item." Back in my apartment, the air felt different, heavier. I checked the locks again, my eyes scanning for anything out of place. That's when I saw Ita drawer slightly ajar, my work notes gone. Someone had been here, while I was at Triton's. My pulse spiked, but I didn't panic. I grabbed my laptop, opened the security feed I'd installed after the break incident, and froze. A grainy image showed a figure in my office, planting the camera in the vent. The timestamp, 2 days ago. The face, Vanessa's. I called Emily, my voice shaking with rage. "She was in my office, Vanessa. She's been watching me." Emily's gasp crackled through the phone. "Olivia, this is bigger than we thought. You need to go to the police." "No," I said, my mind racing. "Not yet. I need leverage, and I'm going to get it." The next morning, Horizon's stock plummeted 15%. A viral X post traced to Vanessa's team blaming me for the Triton fallout. My name was trending, a punching bag for shareholders and tech blogs. But I wasn't hiding. I marched back to Horizon, my heels echoing in the lobby, and demanded a meeting with Ethan. The receptionist hesitated, then buzzed me through. The boardroom was a war zone. Ethan pacing, the CFO pale, Vanessa smirking from the corner. "You've got some nerve," Ethan snapped, his tie askew. "You think you can waltz in after tanking our stock?" I dropped the USB on the table, my voice ice. "You framed me, hacked my system, sabotaged my car, broke into my apartment. And this," I pointed to the USB, "proves it. Memos, chats, your plan to neutralize me. Triton knows, Ethan. And they're done with you." Vanessa's smirk faltered, her eyes darting to Ethan. He opened his mouth, then closed it, his face grey. The CFO grabbed the USB, his hands shaking. We need to call legal." "No," I said, my voice cutting through the room. "You need to listen. I want a public apology from Vanessa, in person, admitting she disrespected me and cost you millions. And I want 5 million for wrongful termination and defamation. You fired me in front of the world. Now you pay for it." Vanessa laughed, but it was brittle, desperate. "You're delusional, Olivia. You think you're the victim here? You're the one who leaked the data." I stepped closer, my voice low, lethal. "I have footage of you planting a camera in my office. Keep talking, Vanessa. See how that plays out." The room went silent. the air thick with panic. Ethan's eyes darted between us, his confidence crumbling. "Olivia," he said, his voice softer now, "let's talk. We can offer you a VP role, a clean slate." "No," I cut him off. "I'm done with Horizon. I've accepted a role with Triton as Chief Cultural Officer. They value what you threw away." The CFO gasped, a pen rolling off the table. Vanessa's face twisted, her facade cracking. Ethan stammered, "Triton? You can't." "I already have," I said, turning to leave. "Good luck with your apps." As I stepped into the elevator, my phone buzzed. A blocked number again. I answered, my heart pounding. "Miss Hart," a voice said, smooth, unfamiliar. "I have evidence of Ethan's involvement in the sabotage. Meet me tonight. Alone." The line went dead, leaving a chill in its wake. I didn't know who it was, but I knew one thing. The game wasn't over. In Sydney, weeks later, I stood in Triton's offices, a jade sculpture on my desk, a symbol of trust I'd earned. My new team linguists, cultural experts, women dismissed as Niche was building something real, something that valued voices over profits. Horizon was crumbling, lawsuits piling up, Ethan's resignation looming. I didn't gloat, I didn't need to. I'd found peace, not in revenge, but in purpose. And as I looked out over Sydney's harbour, the city alive with possibility, I knew one thing. They'd tried to erase me, but I'd become the voice they'd never forget.